You're infertile, Corinne. You can't give me a family. Brendan delivered the verdict over breakfast. He didn't look up from his oatmeal, his voice as flat and gray as the Chicago sky outside our window. It held the same emotional weight as if he were telling me we were out of almond milk. My fork, loaded with scrambled eggs, stopped halfway to my mouth. It hovered there, a perfect, trembling monument to the moment my life split in two. For 3 months this had been building. 3 months of him flinching if my knee brushed his under the sheets. 3 months of him sleeping in thick gray sweatpants and a hoodie, armored against my touch. 3 months of client emergencies that kept him at the office until I was asleep, and early morning gym sessions that got him out of the house before I woke up. He'd been showering at the gym exclusively. The water pressure here is terrible, he'd claimed last week, ignoring the dual rain head shower we'd spent a fortune on. I'd tried to rationalize it. He was stressed about his promotion at Vantage Solutions. We were both on edge from 2 years of trying to conceive, of thermometers and schedules and intimacy that felt like a chore. I told myself this was just a phase, a rough patch. I was wrong. This was a demolition. What? I managed to say. The word was dry, brittle. I said, "You're infertile," he repeated, finally looking at me. His eyes were cold, assessing. "You're barren. It's not going to happen for us. If you're watching this video, tell me where you're from or what time it is for you." The fork clattered against my plate, the egg spilling onto the placemat. How do you know that?" I whispered, my insides turning to ice. "I had some tests done," he said, pulling out his phone. He swiped twice, then angled the screen toward me. It was a blur of medical jargon and charts, too fast for me to read. "My numbers are perfect. Sky high, actually. The doctor said I'm in the top percentile." He pocketed the phone, a smug, resigned look on his face. "We've been trying for 2 years, Corinne. It's not me. The problem is you." My hand, of its own accord, tightened around the strap of my purse hanging on the back of my chair. Inside it, a thick manila envelope rested at the bottom. It had been there for 3 days, a secret I hadn't known how to share. Inside that envelope were my test results, pages and pages of them, from Dr. Aris, the specialist I'd seen without telling him. The summary was printed in bold: exceptional reproductive health, hormone levels optimal, no barriers to conception identified. He had a phantom report on his phone. I had a stack of notarized facts in my bag. "Brendan," I started, trying to keep my voice even. "I don't understand. What doctor did you see? When did you do this?" "Does it matter?" he snapped, pushing back from the table. "I did it. The results are clear. I just wanted to figure out what was wrong with our lives, and now I know." Maybe you should come with me," I said, the words feeling thick in my mouth. "I have an appointment with a specialist, Dr. Aris. We could go together, review everything." Brendan actually laughed. It was a short, sharp, ugly sound. "A specialist? Why? So I can sit in a sterile room while some guy in a white coat tells you what I'm telling you now? So I can hold your hand while you cry?" He grabbed his laptop bag from the counter. "I ran the test myself to spare you that, Corinne. To spare you the public humiliation of finding out in an office full of pregnant women that you're broken." He slung the bag over his shoulder. The word broken hung in the air, pulsing and venomous. He'd chosen it, practiced it. It was meant to kill. "I have a client emergency," he said, the same excuse he'd used for the last 12 weeks. He walked to the door, his steps quick, relieved. He was escaping. "We can talk about the next steps tonight," he called over his shoulder, and then he was gone. The apartment door clicked shut, the sound echoing in the sudden, crushing silence. I sat there for a full minute, staring at his half-eaten oatmeal. Then, with shaking hands, I reached for my purse. I pulled out the envelope from Dr. Aris. I spread the pages across the table over the spilled eggs. Exceptional reproductive health, 95th percentile, fertility indicators optimal. I wasn't infertile, but my marriage was dead. The next Monday, I came home from the grocery store to find a man installing a high-tech keypad lock on Brendan's home office. "What's this?" I asked, setting down the bags. "New corporate security protocol," Brendan said, not looking at me. He was watching the installer test the mechanism. Vantage Solutions is handling some very sensitive client data. They're requiring it for all senior partners who work from home. The installer finished and left. Brendan stood in front of the door, typing in a code. It beeped with each press, a smug electronic sound. "You won't be able to get in, obviously," he said, testing the handle. It was locked tight. "Confidentiality, you understand." I understood. I understood that for 5 years, that office had been our office, where I paid the bills and he worked on presentations. Now it was his fortress. I nodded, my face a perfect mask of beige understanding. "Of course. Client security is important." He gave me a tight, satisfied smile. "Exactly." He went inside and the door snicked shut. A moment later, I heard the faint, muffled sound of his voice. He was on the phone, his tone low and warm. It was a voice he hadn't used with me in months. 2 weeks later, Chicago was paralyzed by a blizzard. The wind howled against our windows, and the snow piled in drifts against the building. The city had issued a stay-at-home warning. Brendan's phone rang at 8 p.m. He looked at the screen, and his entire body tensed. "I have to take this," he muttered, grabbing his keys. "Brendan, it's a blizzard. You can't go out." "I'm not going out. I'm going to the car. The reception is better in the garage." It was the thinnest lie he'd ever told. We had perfect reception. I watched from our third-floor window as he tramped through the snow to the underground garage entrance. 10 minutes later, I saw his car's headlights flick on. He wasn't driving. He was just sitting there, engine running. I watched him for 40 minutes. He was talking, gesturing wildly with one hand, then slumping against the steering wheel, then sitting up and talking again. He was agitated, passionate. Worried about carbon monoxide in the enclosed space, I bundled up, grabbed his heavy parka, and went down. The garage was freezing. I walked up to the driver's side window. He was so engrossed in the call, he didn't see me until I tapped on the glass. He jumped, his face contorting in pure, undiluted rage. He held up one finger. "Wait," then angrily turned his back to me, pressing his head near the glass on the other side. I stood there in the freezing concrete garage, holding his coat like a fool, while my husband finished a secret, passionate conversation in the middle of a blizzard. When he finally came back upstairs an hour later, his ears were red with cold. "Was everything okay?" I asked, my voice polite. "You wouldn't understand," he said, brushing past me. "It's complicated." The Vantage Solutions holiday party was in early December. It was the first time we'd gone to a public event together in months. Brendan insisted we arrive separately, claiming he had to prep the partners for a presentation. I walked into the glittering ballroom alone, feeling out of place in my cocktail dress. I found him by the bar, holding court with a group of colleagues. He was laughing, animated, the charming, ambitious man I'd married. As I approached, the laughter died. He saw me and his face hardened. "Oh," he said, turning to the group, "everyone, this is Corinne. Not my wife, Corinne. Not you all remember Corinne. Just Corinne." Like I was a distant cousin or a new intern. A few people mumbled awkward hellos. I saw Morgan, a senior manager known for her brutal efficiency and icy demeanor, look from Brendan to me. Her eyes, usually sharp and dismissive, softened for a fraction of a second with something that looked like pity. She gave me a curt nod, then turned back to the bar. I spent the rest of the night standing near a sad-looking poinsettia, sipping wine I didn't want, watching my husband network as if he'd come alone. He never looked my way once. I had been publicly downgraded from partner to acquaintance. The gaslighting began in earnest after the party. He started accidentally leaving his laptop on the kitchen counter, open to his browser. The first time, the search history was visible. Coping when your wife is barren. Childless life acceptance. Signs of irreversible female infertility. He wanted me to see it. He was building a case not just for himself, but for me. He was trying to break me down to make me believe his lies so completely that I would be the one to suggest we end things. A few days later, I found a book on his nightstand. A Different Path, Finding Joy After Infertility. A bright pink bookmark was stuck in the first chapter. It was insulting. It was clumsy. And it was working. Not in the way he thought. I never believed his lie. But it was hardening my heart, forging my quiet, polite sadness into something cold and sharp. If Brendan wanted a broken wife, I would give him an Oscar-worthy performance. The next night, when he was in his fortress, I sat at the dining room table with my own laptop. I opened my browser and began my own search. Best IVF clinics in Chicago. Cost of fertility treatments, Illinois. Support groups for infertile women. I made sure to leave the tabs open. I cleared my real search history. Top divorce lawyers, Chicago. How to track hidden assets. Signs of a cheating husband. And left only the performance. He came out for water around 10 p.m. I quickly shut the laptop, but not before he saw the screen. "Corinne, what are you doing?" he asked, his voice laced with that fake, pitying tone. "Just looking," I whispered, wiping away a non-existent tear. "I just thought, maybe there's some hope." "Oh, honey," he said, patting my shoulder. It was a condescending, impersonal gesture. "We talked about this. The tests were conclusive. Don't torture yourself." "I know," I sniffled. "You're right." He nodded, satisfied. "It's best to just accept it." He got his water and retreated to his office, the keypad beeping his exit. I smiled at my dark laptop screen. "Oh, I'm accepting it, Brendan. All of it." My performance escalated. I went online and ordered a stack of glossy brochures from high-end adoption agencies. "Building Your Forever Family," one cover read, over a picture of a smiling, multicultural couple. I left them on the coffee table, tucked partially under a design magazine, as if I'd been reading them in secret. I came home one afternoon to find Brendan sitting on the sofa, flipping through one. "Corinne," he said, holding it up. "I'm sorry," I said, faking a blush. "I was just curious." He stood up and walked over to me. He put his hands on my shoulders, his face a mask of profound, sympathetic understanding. "No, this is good," he said slowly, as if speaking to a child. "It's good that you're being practical, that you're accepting reality and looking at other options." "You really think so?" "I do. It's a mature way to handle this." He patted my head. Actually, patted my head. "I'm proud of you for being so strong." I had to bite the inside of my cheek to keep from screaming. My masterpiece was the support group. I found one online, Fertility Journeys, meeting every Wednesday in a church basement. I went. I sat in a circle of women whose pain was real, visceral, and heartbreaking. And I lied. "I just found out," I told them, my voice cracking at the perfect moment. "My husband, he's trying to be supportive, but I can see the disappointment. He wants a family so badly, and I'm broken." They were wonderful. They hugged me. They shared their stories. They offered me tissues and told me I wasn't alone. I felt like the worst person on earth using their genuine grief as a prop, but I needed the alibi. At the end of the meeting, I made a small donation and got a stamped attendance card. I drove home, parked, and tucked the card into the side pocket of my purse, letting it peek out just enough. That night, Brendan borrowed my car keys from my purse. I watched him from the kitchen. His fingers brushed the card. He paused, pulled it out, read it, and put it back, his expression one of complete smug satisfaction. He'd bought the entire show. The following Tuesday, Brendan called me at 6 p.m. "Hey, Corinne, listen, I'm stuck in a meeting with the partners from New York. It's going to run for hours. Don't wait up for me." "Oh, okay," I said, my voice full of practiced disappointment. "No problem. I'll just eat leftovers. Be safe." "Thanks. Bye." He hung up. I stood in our silent apartment looking at his home office. He thought he was at a meeting. But I was standing right outside his office door, and in his hurry to leave for his meeting, he had forgotten to engage the lock. The keypad was dark. The door was unlocked. My heart hammered against my ribs. This was it. I pushed the door open. The room was dark, but the air was wrong. It didn't smell like him. It smelled like him, plus something else. A sweet, cloying perfume. Vanilla and something musky. Not my scent. I flicked on the desk lamp. His desk was immaculate, as always, but his laptop was sitting there, and it was open. He hadn't even put it to sleep. The screen was bright, his email inbox open. My hands were shaking. I wasn't supposed to be here. This was his fortress. But the door had been open. It felt like an invitation. Most of the emails were from Vantage Solutions, standard corporate nonsense. But then I saw a folder in the sidebar. It was just one letter, T. I clicked it. My breath left my body. It was an email chain with one person, Tiffany Shaw, a new hire in the marketing department, a stunning, blonde 20-something I'd seen at the holiday party. I started at the bottom, 3 months ago. Brendan, thanks for the guidance on the quarterly report. You made it make sense. Happy to help, Tiffany. You're a fast learner. I scrolled up. 2 months ago. Brendan, lunch was amazing. I can't stop thinking about what you said. I meant every word. I haven't felt this way in a long time. I scrolled faster. 1 month ago. I can't believe this is happening. I feel like I'm alive for the first time. I can't wait until we don't have to hide. I love you. I love you too, Tiff. More than you know. It's all complicated right now, but I'm handling it. Soon, it'll just be us. I promise. Handling it. That's what I was. A complication. A problem to be handled. I scrolled to the most recent email from 2 days ago. The subject line was, Our Little Miracle. I clicked it. The email was from Tiffany. Brendan, my love. The doctor confirmed it. 12 weeks. I've attached the first picture. I can't stop crying. This is our new beginning. I know the timing is complicated with Corinne, but this baby is a sign. Once you handle things, we can finally be the family we were meant to be. I love you both so much. An image was attached. I clicked it and it loaded, grainy and black and white. A tiny bean-shaped blob, a fetus, 12 weeks. I did the math. 12 weeks ago was right when he'd started sleeping in sweatpants, right when he'd started showering at the gym, right when he'd started flinching from my touch. He hadn't been avoiding me because he was stressed. He'd been avoiding me because he was sleeping with Tiffany. He'd invented my infertility, not to get out of a marriage, but to get into a new one. Rage, pure and white-hot, eclipsed the shock. I had to save this. My hands flew. I grabbed my phone, taking pictures of the screen, one after another. The ultrasound, the declarations of love, the handling Corinne message. But photos weren't enough. I needed the files. I opened my own email, typing in the address of a new secret account I'd created. I started forwarding the emails. 1, 2, 3. The fourth one, the ultrasound email, was forwarding. Suddenly, the screen flickered. It went black. A new icon appeared in the center, a spinning circle with the words, System erase in progress. Please do not turn off your computer. No, I whispered, hitting the trackpad. Nothing. I mashed the escape key. Nothing. He was wiping it, remotely, from his meeting. He must have gotten an alert that his email was being accessed from his home IP address. No, 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 I watched, helpless, as the progress bar crept across the screen. He'd wiped it. He'd wiped the laptop, and with it, my secret email account. All of it. All of? The photos on my phone were gone too, synced to the same cloud he'd just nuked. I had nothing. I had seen the truth, and now it was gone. I sank to the floor, my fury so profound it left me breathless. I had the truth, but I had no proof. I sat in the dark office for an hour, my mind blank with rage and defeat. I had lost. He was smarter. He had a backup plan. I went back to the living room, my entire body numb. I'd have to start over. But how? My laptop was on the coffee table. I opened it. An email alert popped up. It was from a garbled, anonymous address. Proton mail. The subject line was Vantage Solutions Holiday Party. My heart stopped. I opened it. There was no text, just 2 attachments. The first was a photo. It was blurry, taken from a distance. It showed Brendan and Tiffany standing outside a hotel, the Ritz-Carlton, from the awning. They were kissing, deeply. The timestamp in the corner was from the night of the blizzard. The second attachment was a single line of text, P.O. Box 7714, Chicago IL 60601. That was it. I stared at the screen, my mind racing. Who? And then I knew. The curt nod, the look of sharp, sudden pity, the way she'd turned away from Brendan in disgust. Morgan, the icy senior manager. She must have seen them. She must have hated Brendan for his own reasons. I'd heard whispers he'd stolen credit for one of her projects and decided to drop a bomb. She hadn't just given me a clue. She'd given me a weapon. I immediately called my sister, Sabrina. He wiped it, Sabrina. He wiped the whole laptop. I have nothing. Corinne, slow down, breathe. What did you lose? Everything. The emails with his mistress, Tiffany, the ultrasound, she's pregnant. He's been lying about everything. There was a sharp intake of breath on the other end. Okay, he's scum, we knew that, but he's clean up his mess scum. What do you have left? Nothing, just this weird anonymous email, a picture of them kissing and a P.O. box address. A P.O. box? Sabrina said, her voice suddenly sharp. Corinne, that's not nothing. That's the money. He wouldn't use your home address for the credit cards he's using to pay for her. That P.O. box is where the statements are going. I felt a jolt of electricity. But how do I get into his office? He'll have it locked. He's sloppy, Corinne. He's arrogant. He left it unlocked once, he'll do it again. But he won't keep paper statements in there. He's not that stupid. He'll have digital records. He'll have a backup. A backup? He works in finance, Corinne. Those guys are paranoid. They back up everything. Forget the laptop. Find the physical drive. Sabrina was right. Brendan was arrogant. He came home late, full of fake apologies about the meeting from hell, and didn't even check his home office. He assumed his remote wipe had solved the problem. He left the next morning for a day trip to Milwaukee. The second his car was out of the garage, I was at the office door. It was locked. The keypad taunted me. I went to the kitchen and got a butter knife. It was a stupid, desperate move, but I jammed it into the door jamb. Nothing. I tried to guess the code. His birthday, my birthday, our anniversary, nothing. I sank to the floor, defeated. Find the drive, Sabrina's voice echoed in my head. Wait, the key, the anonymous email, a picture and a P.O. box. What if? I went back into the office. I didn't need the code. I needed a key. I started tearing the room apart. I pulled books off shelves, emptied drawers, nothing. I dropped to my hands and knees, my hand sweeping under the massive oak desk. My fingers brushed against something cold and metal, held by a piece of duct tape. A single small key. I scrambled back up. Where was the lock? I looked at the filing cabinet. No keyhole. Then I saw it. A small, black, fireproof file box, tucked away on the bottom shelf behind a stack of binders. It had a small, circular lock. The key slid in. It turned. Inside, nestled on old tax returns, was a black, external hard drive. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely unplug his monitor and plug the drive into my own laptop. The drive whirred to life. A folder popped up. Brendan System Backup. It was dated 3 weeks ago, before the wipe. I clicked it, and there it was. Everything. The T folder, the emails, the ultrasound. I had it all back. I spent the next 2 hours downloading everything to 3 separate cloud accounts and 2 physical USB drives, which I immediately put in my purse. As I was saving the last file, my curiosity got the better of me. I went back to the drive's main directory. A folder was labeled Medical Personal. My heart thumped. I clicked it. It was full of old insurance claims and doctor's bills. And one folder labeled Urology 2023. Inside was a PDF, a lab report from 2 years ago. Brendan had undergone surgery for a varicocele, something he'd told me was a minor routine procedure. But this was the follow-up test. I scrolled down to the summary. Patient, Brendan Harris. Analysis, sperm motility. Result, 8% progressive motility. Reference range, 32%. Comment, motility is critically low. Morphology also abnormal. Natural conception will be extremely difficult. Recommend immediate consultation with fertility specialist. He'd never mentioned this. He'd never gone back for a follow-up. He'd just ignored it. I did the math again. Tiffany was 12 weeks pregnant. Brendan was, for all intents and purposes, sterile. My laugh started as a low, dark chuckle. The baby wasn't his. The next morning, I was at Dr. Aris's office at 9 a.m. sharp. Dr. Aris, I said, sitting across from her desk, I need official, notarized copies of my complete fertility panel. She looked at me over her glasses. Corinne, is everything all right? This is an unusual request. My husband, I said, my voice steady, has created a false narrative about my health. I need to correct it. Officially. She nodded slowly, a look of profound understanding on her face. I see. An hour later, I left with a thick, sealed envelope stamped with her official seal, containing 5 notarized copies of my exceptional fertility report. I went to a print shop. I printed everything from the external drive. The emails between Brendan and Tiffany, the ultrasound photo, the credit card statements from the P.O. box, which thanks to Morgan, I'd been able to access online. Thousands spent at lingerie stores, 4-star restaurants, and a hotel near O'Hare. And finally, Brendan's own critically low motility report. I bought a 1-inch black binder and a set of divider tabs. I assembled my truth binder. Tab 1, my fertility, Dr. Aris's reports. Tab 2, his fertility, Brendan's urology report. Tab 3, the affair, the emails. Tab 4, the pregnancy, the ultrasound. Tab 5, the cost, the credit card statements. It was a weapon, and I couldn't wait to use it. That Thursday, my phone buzzed with a text from Brendan. I was in the kitchen packing a small go bag with my essentials and the USB drives. Dinner tomorrow, the Vesper, 7 p.m. We need to talk. I froze. The Vesper. The impossibly elegant, hideously expensive restaurant where he had proposed to me 6 years ago. The place we went every year for our anniversary. The calculated theatrical cruelty of it took my breath away. He was planning to end our marriage in the exact spot it began. He was going to tell his barren wife it was over, in the room where he'd promised her forever. This was his grand finale. I looked at the black binder sitting on my counter. "You have no idea, you bastard," I whispered. I texted back a single word, "Okay." I spent the next 24 hours in a state of icy, calm focus. I met with a divorce attorney, one of the sharks Sabrina had recommended. I gave her one of the USB drives. She smiled. "This is comprehensive," she said. "He won't know what hit him. We'll file Monday morning." "I have dinner with him Friday night," I said. Her smile widened. "Oh, a final conversation? Don't sign anything and don't tell him you've seen me. Let him play his hand." "I plan to," I said. At 5 p.m. on Friday, as I was finishing my makeup, my phone buzzed again. A new text from Brendan. "By the way, I'm bringing someone I want you to meet. Hope that's okay." I laughed out loud. He wasn't just ending the marriage. He was introducing his replacement at our restaurant. He was bringing his pregnant mistress to the execution. It was more perfect than I could have possibly imagined. He was handing me an audience. I picked up the truth binder and slid it into my oversized designer handbag. It fit perfectly. I arrived at the Vesper at 6:40 p.m. The maitre d', a man who had seated us for 5 anniversaries, smiled warmly. "Mrs. Harris, a pleasure. Mr. Harris made the reservation. Your corner booth is ready." Of course he had. A dark, private, hidden corner booth where he could deliver his speech without being seen. Where I could cry in private. I smiled, pulling a folded $100 bill from my purse. "Marcel, you're always so kind," I said, pressing it into his hand, "but I've developed a bit of claustrophobia lately. That main table, the one in the center by the window, it's so open. Would it be possible to sit there? For the view." Marcel glanced at the bill, then at my face. He saw the steel in my eyes. He was a professional. He understood theater. "But of course, Mrs. Harris," he said, pocketing the bill. "The view is much better from there. Right this way." He led me to the most visible table in the entire restaurant. A raised platform, dead center. Every other diner would be able to see us perfectly. I sat, facing the entrance. I ordered a sparkling water and placed my large purse on the empty chair beside me. The binder inside felt heavy, solid, and final. At 17 p.m. on the dot, they walked in. Brendan entered first, wearing his most expensive suit, the charcoal one I'd bought him when he made partner. He looked confident, powerful. Behind him, her hand tucked into the crook of his arm, was Tiffany Shaw. She was visibly pregnant, not maybe pregnant. She was 4 months along, and the tight emerald green dress she wore was designed to showcase the high, round swell of her belly. Her blonde hair was perfect. Her makeup was glowing. She was a walking, breathing advertisement for fertile superiority. The restaurant, which had been buzzing with quiet conversation, went silent. I watched as forks paused halfway to mouths. I saw 2 of Brendan's colleagues from Vantage Solutions sitting at a table near the bar, freeze and stare. Their jaws literally dropped. Brendan's confident stride faltered when he saw me. He'd been expecting the dark corner. Instead, he was on a stage. He recovered quickly, his face hardening. He put his hand on the small of Tiffany's back, a gesture of ownership, and guided her through the tables toward me. Every eye in the room followed them. "Corinne," Brendan said, his voice tight. He didn't kiss me. He didn't even make eye contact. "This is Tiffany Shaw from my marketing department." Tiffany gave me a small, pitying smile. "It's so nice to finally meet you, Corinne," she said, her voice soft and dripping with false sincerity. "Hello, Tiffany," I said, smiling brightly. I stood and pulled out the chair for her. "Please sit." "You must be exhausted carrying all that weight." Brendan's eyes narrowed, but Tiffany just blushed. "Oh, thank you. It's a lot." They sat. The waiter appeared instantly. "A bottle of the 09 Bordeaux," Brendan started. "Actually," I interrupted, "I'll just have a sparkling water, and I'm sure Tiffany will have the same. Can't drink in your condition, can you?" "No," Tiffany said, placing a hand on her belly. "Just water, for me." "So, congratulations are in order," I said, my smile never wavering. "Corinne," Brendan warned. "Oh, Brendan, it's fine," Tiffany said, patting his arm. Then she turned her gaze back to me. Her eyes were full of a practiced, condescending sympathy. "Corinne, I just want you to know, it must be just awful. Finding out you're, barren. Brendan told me all about your diagnosis. It's just heartbreaking." I nodded, my smile widening. It was quite a shock. "Corinne," Brendan said, leaning forward. He placed his hands on the table. This was it, the speech. "We need to talk about the future, the reality of our situation." "Our situation?" I asked, feigning confusion. "You mean my diagnosis?" "Exactly," he said, relieved I'd made it easy for him. "Look, this isn't easy to say, but life Life takes unexpected turns, and we have to be mature enough to accept reality and move forward with grace. He was quoting a management seminar to my face. Tiffany and I, he continued, reaching across the table to take her hand, we've grown close. This baby, it wasn't planned. But it's a miracle, Tiffany supplied, her eyes shining. It's a miracle, Brendan agreed, and I'm going to be a father. We're going to be a real family. A real family, as opposed to the fake one I'd been providing him for 6 years. I see, I said. I let the silence hang for a beat. The tables around us were pretending not to listen and failing miserably. So I'm asking for a divorce, Corinne. I've accepted that you can't give me what I need, and now I have a chance at a real family. I'm taking it. I looked at him, at his smug, righteous face, at Tiffany's glowing, pitying smile. You're right, Brendan, I said, and his face relaxed. He thought I was going to cry. He thought I was broken. You are absolutely right. This is the perfect time for complete honesty and for accepting reality. I reached down to my handbag. I pulled out the 1-inch black binder. I placed it on the table between us with a solid, definitive thud. The mood at the table shattered. What is that? Brendan's voice had lost its confidence. It was sharp with suspicion. You wanted to talk about reality, Brendan, I said, my voice clear and carrying in the quiet room. Let's talk about reality. Open it. Tiffany looked confused. Honey, what is that? Is that from her doctor? More bad news? Open it, I repeated to my husband. His hands were trembling. He stared at the binder as if it were a bomb. Slowly, he reached out and opened the cover. He opened it to the first page. Tab 1, My Fertility. He was looking at the notarized official sealed report from Dr. Aris. I'd used a yellow highlighter on the summary. Patient, Corinne Harris. Result, exceptional reproductive health. Summary, 95th percentile fertility indicators. No barriers to conception identified. The color drained from Brendan's face. He looked like he'd been shot. This is fake, he whispered, his hands shaking. This is impossible. It's from Dr. Aris, I said, loud enough for the tables nearby to hear. The top reproductive endocrinologist in the state. Dated 2 weeks ago. I'm in the 95th percentile, Brendan. Turns out I'm, what's the word? Virile. I took a sip of my water. But Tiffany's voice was a high-pitched squeak. She snatched the paper from him. But you showed me her reports. You showed me. You said she was barren. He fabricated them, Tiffany, I said calmly. He lied. He needed a reason to handle me, and making me the broken one was the easiest way. Wasn't it, Brendan? Brendan's head snapped up, his eyes pure fire. You. But, I said, cutting him off, that's not even the most interesting part of the binder. Brendan, why don't you flip to tab 2, his fertility? Let's talk about your medical history. His face went from white to a sickly mottled gray. He knew exactly what was in that tab. He didn't move, so I reached over, flipped the page for him, and turned it for Tiffany to see. This, I announced, is Brendan's urology report from 2 years ago, after his minor surgery. Pay attention to the highlighted part, Tiffany. She leaned over, squinting. She read the words aloud, her voice trembling. Critically low motility. Natural conception. Extremely difficult. She looked up, her face a mask of pure confusion. I don't understand. Let me help you, I said, leaning in like I was sharing a secret. He's sterile. You're, 4 months pregnant? The math hung in the air. Simple, brutal, undeniable. Tiffany's hand, which had been resting on her belly, recoiled as if she'd been burned. She stared at the bump, then at Brendan, her eyes wide with dawning horror. Brendan? She whispered. Brendan wasn't looking at her. He was staring at me. his face a grotesque mask of hatred. You bitch, you planned this. You planned dinner at our anniversary spot to dump your barren wife. I shot back, my voice ringing through the restaurant. My plan is just the truth, which seems to be a new concept for this table. Brendan! Tiffany shrieked, and now she was crying. What is this? Tell me she's lying. Is she? He snarled, finally turning on her. His entire world was collapsing, and he needed someone to blame. Is she lying, Tiffany? The timeline? It shatters, doesn't it? If I'm sterile, then whose baby is that? He grabbed her wrist. Whose baby is it? Were you with someone else? No, never, she sobbed. Don't lie to me, he roared. The entire restaurant was watching. The Vantage Solutions colleagues were filming on their phones. Whose is it? Tiffany broke. It was a spectacular implosion. She ripped her arm out of his grasp, her face ruined with running mascara and rage. It was Chad, she screamed. Chad from finance, okay? The silence that followed was absolute. What? Brendan's voice was a hollow croak. Chad, she sobbed, hiding her face in her hands. There was some overlap. Before you and I were exclusive. I hoped it was yours. The dates were close. I wanted it to be yours. I watched Brendan's world dissolve in real time. The woman he'd destroyed his life for. The miracle baby. The real family. All of it. A lie. Built on his own lie. He had been played just as he had tried to play me. Brendan looked catatonic. He just stared at the tablecloth, his mouth slightly open. Tiffany was hyperventilating, sobbing about Chad and lies. I stood up. I smoothed my dress. Well, I said, gathering my purse, this has been illuminating. I left the binder open on the table. The emails, the ultrasound, the competing fertility reports, all of it. The divorce papers are at the bottom of the stack, Brendan, I said. My lawyer will be calling yours on Monday. I'd advise you to cooperate. I looked at Tiffany, who was now just a sobbing, hysterical mess. Congratulations on the baby, Tiffany, I said, my voice kind. I'm sure Chad will be thrilled to hear the news. I turned and walked away. I didn't run. I walked, my heels clicking decisively on the marble floor. As I passed the Maitre D's station, Marcel caught my eye. He gave me a slow, almost imperceptible nod of profound respect. I pushed open the heavy glass doors and stepped out into the cool, clean Chicago night. I had never felt so free. My lawyer filed the papers at 9 a.m. Monday. By 10 a.m., the video from the Vantage Solutions colleagues was an internal company sensation. By noon, Brendan had been called into HR. He was fired by 3 p.m. Conduct unbecoming was the official reason. Morgan, I heard, had personally overseen his exit interview. The divorce was a bloodbath. Brendan, humiliated, unemployed, and facing a paternity scandal, had no fight left in him. My lawyer used the faked medical reports, the public humiliation, and the mountains of financial infidelity as leverage. He agreed to everything. I got the apartment. I got the savings. I got 2 years of significant alimony. He signed the papers in his lawyer's office, looking gray and defeated, a man who had lost a war he'd started. Tiffany disappeared. I heard through the grapevine that she'd moved back to her parents' house in Indiana. Chad, from finance, as it turned out, was married. He denied everything and kept his job. 6 months later, I was watering plants on the balcony of my new apartment in Lincoln Park. I'd sold the marital prison and found a bright, airy place with a view of the lake. I was on my way to a gallery opening that night, a favor for Sabrina. That's where I met Nolan. He was an architect, funny and kind, with eyes that actually saw me. He didn't talk about legacy or numbers. He talked about light and space and how to build things that last. On our third date, I told him everything, the whole ugly, insane story. He listened, his expression unreadable. When I finished, he was quiet for a long moment. Then he threw back his head and laughed. A deep, genuine, beautiful laugh. "So wait," he said, wiping a tear from his eye. "He called you Barren while he was sterile, and his mistress was pregnant with another guy's baby?" "That's the summary, yes." "Corinne," he said, taking my hand, "that is the greatest story I have ever heard. You're a legend." Our relationship was built on honesty. His phone sat face up on the nightstand, unlocked. He didn't have a home office. He just had a sketchbook, and he showed me all his designs. It was easy. It was clean. A year after the divorce, my phone rang. An unknown number from Boston. I almost didn't answer. "Hello?" "Corinne?" My blood ran cold. It was Brendan. His voice was thin, hollow. "What do you want, Brendan?" I heard you were doing well. I'm in Boston, working at a smaller firm. It's fine. Good for you. Why are you calling?" There was a long, static-filled pause. "She had the baby," he whispered. "Tiffany. She had it. A boy. It was Chad's. He denied paternity. She tried to trap me, Corinne. She tried to make me raise another man's child." I looked out my window at the sparkling blue of Lake Michigan. I felt nothing. No anger. No pity. Just distance. "Like you tried to trap me with fake infertility," I said. It wasn't a question. "I know," he cried, his voice breaking. "God, I know. It's irony, isn't it?" I thought for a moment, then took a calm breath. "No, Brendan," I said. "It's not irony. It's justice." I hung up the phone. I looked at his number for a second, then I blocked it. Nolan walked into the room holding 2 cups of coffee. He smiled. "Who was that?" "Wrong number," I said, taking the cup. "A total stranger." I smiled back, and for the first time in my life, it was the complete, unadulterated truth. If this story resonated with you, leave a like and consider subscribing. You can also drop any comment below, even just one word. Maybe tell me where you're watching from, or what time it is right now. Sometimes one word is enough to say you were here.